What's up, basketball coaches, players, and fans? Welcome to the Pass First podcast, where we share our knowledge of the game of basketball. My name is Alex Engel, and I'm here with my partner, Augie Johnston. We have a special guest today. He's a former Division I and professional basketball player that we're excited to have on the show. And we hope that you're able to take something away from this podcast that'll help you on your basketball journey. Without further ado, let's get into today's episode. All right, welcome everybody. Thank you guys for tuning into the show. Like I said earlier, we have a special guest with us. I'm going to give him a brief introduction, and then he'll have some time to talk about it himself. This is Chris Eversley, a friend of both Augie and mine, former Division I player, also former professional basketball player. Thank you for coming on the show today. We appreciate you taking the time to join us. So to start it off, just kind of wanted to ask, what's your background with basketball? You can tell us a little bit about where you grew up and how you got to, where you ended up at the Division I and professional level.
All right, well, yeah, thanks guys for having me. Appreciate both of you guys, bringing the old man in on this fine Saturday afternoon. But just a little background about me for those of you who don't know. Born and raised on the south side of Chicago. Both my parents hooped. My dad was fortunate enough to make it all the way to the league, but got injured in the preseason. He was with the Bulls and then spent some time overseas. And then my mom played for Long Beach State when they were like ranked third or fourth in the country, back in the day. She always tells me not to tell people what year because she doesn't want to date her, but so I was I guess you could kind of say I was born to hoop. So, both my parents were tall, so I kind of stole some of that from them, and went to Peyton College Prep in Chicago, a brand new high school that's actually ranked number 9 in the country right now academically and number 1 in the state of Illinois. So obviously, it's not always just about basketball because I was fortunate enough to be like the first D1 athlete to come from Peyton. And with it being such a high academic school, I got an offer to go to Rice University in Houston, which is one of the top prestigious, universities in the country. They build themselves as the Harvard of the South, which, kind of cool. Went there for my freshman year. Played a little bit here and there, but it was nice to kind of get on college campus, see how things go, see how people move. And then after that first season, I decided it was, in my best interest to transfer to another school, in which I landed in the happiest place in America, San Luis Obispo. And that is where I met both of you guys. So I spent some time. I finished up my last 4 years. The first year I redshirted, and then the last 3 I played at Cal Poly SLO. And we were okay. Like we did a couple cool things in my career, but after that, then went overseas for a couple of years, for 5 years actually, in Southeast Asia. I spent 3 years, 1 year in Belgium and 1 year in Germany.
Davis, good pass. He lays it down. Chris Eversley with the dunk.
Then came back here, decided it was time to start that next phase of my life, and now I am your friendly neighborhood YMCA director. So, that kind of summarizes where I'm at. I'm not sure if we're doing video, but that's also the reason why I'm in colorful clothing, because as you I'm at work right now. So we just got finished with a Healthy Kids Day thing, so we did like an 80s dance party for the kids, so your boy had to come on out here.
Nice. So kind of going off of your experience in college, just one of my first questions was what made you choose Rice initially, and then what made you decide to transfer to Cal Poly?
Funny story. A lot of people actually don't know this. So the reason I chose Rice is because I had actually broken my ankle my senior year in high school in the preseason, and Alex, Dom, but I landed on Dom's foot. He was trying to contest me like Zaza Pachulia was trying to contest like Kawhi in the playoffs. So I came down on his foot, broke my ankle, and I actually went to Rice. In a couple of schools, like they pulled out because they couldn't come and watch me work out. They couldn't do any of that stuff. So I was like, all right, but Rice was still on me tough. So I'm like, okay. So I actually went to Rice on crutches and in a boot. And was down there kind of just like mobbing around, hanging out, meeting everybody, seeing what was going on. Didn't get a chance to play on my visit, unfortunately, but I was like, you know what, this is pretty cool. Like Texas is awesome. The food's good. The people seem nice. The campus, like I said, if nothing works out, at least I got a great degree. So I was like, let me just, go with the academics on this one. So then, when I got to Rice, I probably played, I think I averaged maybe 5 minutes a game as a freshman. And it was a situation where, and a lot of people, they like to ask me because I know a lot of kids now, they like to transfer because they don't get along or they're not getting playing time and stuff like that. But I think something that was overlooked in my situation that I actually took to heart was just the way I felt. You know what I mean? Besides, like, I was like, let me take basketball out of this equation. Am I happy here? And the answer was no. So I was like, basketball aside, I'm not going to just spend my next 4 years here being miserable. So let me find some place that I can kind of go to and, kind of relax and enjoy the vibe a little bit. And then if I can go there and play, so be it. But if I go there and I'm playing 5 minutes a game there, but I'm happier, then it's worth it. So I'm like, okay, we'll see. So leaving Rice, I mentioned before my mom went to Long Beach State, and she was like, hey, if you can ever get a chance to go out to school in Cali, like, do it. So as soon as I finished my highlight tape from Rice, like all 3 highlights that I had, I was sending it out. I'm like, hey, Pepperdine, y'all got to take me. Y'all got to take me. Actually, I hit every school in the Big West, which is actually really funny because you guys know what happens later. So, so like I was hitting every school in the Big West, And then one of my best friends, who's actually part of my, we'll say agency. I'm not going to say former agency because, I don't know if I'm really done playing yet. We'll see. But so he was good friends with Coach Omar Lowry. Mm-hmm. And there's another guy that was working us out in the summer named Doc. So like those 3 got together. It was like, all right. And Omar was like, we got to get Chris out to Cal Poly. We got to get Chris. I'm like, all right. So I actually had to do summer school classes. I had to take a stats class. I had to take an English class, all types of stuff to be able to like switch majors because the curriculum was different from Rice. So got that taken care of. And then, came on the visit. And I was like, hey, like, this is it. Like, if it don't work out, at least I got the ocean. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to meet some nice people. I might learn how to play the stocks. I might, you know what I mean? Whatever. So, it turned out to be the best decision of my life so far. So,
yeah. And for those of you that don't know, obviously, if you're from the area, I'm sure most people know what you accomplished here and the accolades. But for anybody that's watching that's not from this area, I know you were a part of 2 years in a row where you guys have the school record for most wins. Was your sophomore and your junior year. Senior year, went to the NCAA tournament, won the Big West Conference. You were Big West Conference MVP. I know multiple times you were all conference. So again, he kind of washed over it real lightly, but I'm going to brag for you a little bit and let everybody know what you did. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of the background. So appreciate you sharing that with us. So with that being said, after you got done, you finished your senior year, you were done, you decided that you wanted to go play, continue playing basketball professionally. So how did you get started with overseas? And this is going to go for both of you guys, because the cool thing is both of you have that same experience. You both played multiple years. I don't know what the average career length is, but I know all you played 7, you played 5, correct? Okay, so
you might not be done. He said, "Uh-oh."
Yeah, you're right. That's true.
Plug.
Yeah. I don't want to say it. You've played 5 so far. We'll say that.
Hey, real quick, I want to just chime in a little bit on the background story, because I didn't know the full story. Alex, you probably know the story a little bit more than me. I knew the Cal Poly stuff, but I think just for anybody that's listening to this, like, you definitely used basketball as a way to get a good education, going from Rice to Cal Poly. I mean, those are like just 2 solid schools in a row. And also another thing that I think players, if they're listening to this, could realize is, like, you got to be strategic, like with your college career, and you have to like make the right decisions. And that's challenging. Like, I know for me personally, going to Cal State Monterey Bay, like you said, you were happy to go to Cal Poly. I was lucky that I made that decision and didn't try to go somewhere else where it just wouldn't have worked out. Even like a small jump over to like a school like Chico State or something, probably would have never got the opportunity maybe, but it was Monterey, brand new to D2. I was able to get an opportunity. But also the final thing is just you come from a real basketball pedigree. I didn't know about that. And that's super interesting to me. And the final thought on this whole thing was I think it's cool to have another person on the show that's a lifer, because, like, look, you don't know if you're going to play again, but you're already into coaching, you're already, helping youth and stuff. So I think this is just another good example of what me and Alex always talk about, how the game brings people together. And that's lifers that always end up meeting in the end. So
Yeah, I
anyways,
mean, it doesn't have to end when you stop playing. You know, like all of us have when we stop playing, like we go on to coach. You know, we're still doing things to do our part because at the end of the day, we do love the game, and we all know whether we want it to or not, the ball is going to stop bouncing. So how much are you willing to do to still push the culture forward? So I know that's something that you guys are both doing up there on the Central Coast, and I try to do the same thing down here in LA. But lifer is the right term because it is what it is. Like we out here to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and talk about that overseas stuff, Alex.
Yeah. So anyway, what I was just gonna say was, how did you guys both get? So I guess we'll start with I'll start with you first, okay? Because I don't know again if the viewers know your exact process. How did you get overseas? How did it work out? And then when you're done CE, you can kind of tell us your story.
So for me, I was kind of similar to CE when he said he was reaching out to every school in the Big West. I was reaching out to every school or every team overseas. And I actually went to a camp out there in Germany and met some people, made some connections and stuff, and then ended up not getting anything and then going to China to teach English. And then when I was in China teaching English, I got a call from kind of a connection through an agent and a buddy of mine. And it was to go play for a very low level team, 5th league, Regionalliga 2, like super low level. So my expectations were like, I'm going overseas to play pro, and then I'll get over there. And you probably experienced some of the same things as well, as far as like, wait a second. And anyways, yeah. And then from there, I was just I got an agent from there and was just able to move up every year. But that's how I got out there. Was I did go to a camp, and I was going to every camp, and I was emailing every coach over there and stuff, and just made connections that way. So yeah.
Right. I mean, for me, it was kind of like mine was a little bit more, I guess you could say, traditional, just because I had people like we were fresh off of like an NCAA tournament, so like things were kind of like a little bit simpler. But I know, like in terms of your situation, like Maul and KO, like they had to go that route where it's like, it's like, all right, well, how much can we really do? Like, okay, well, you try to use the coaching staff's connections. I was trying to like get my agent to take him in. Like, I'm trying to like, hey guys, like try to come on with me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like I had a couple people hit me up right after the season ended. At the time when it was legal that they could. You got to wait until you play your last game. So after we got mollywopped by Wichita State, the next couple of days, I was on some phone calls. Ended up signing with the Chicago agency, which turned out to be not the ideal situation. But I did what I had to do at the time. And, that agent got me to Malaysia, where I I played for the same team in Malaysia and Southeast Asia all 3 years that I was in that region. So,
Wow.
once I went there, I was like, okay, establish a rapport because, the fans love you, you're producing, blah, 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 all this stuff. So, like that's how I got started. And then I ended up switching agents to a family friend. And again, like, so my guy, Dan, and then my agent, Mike, they're with Beyond Athlete Management now down here in LA. And then they got me to Germany, they got me to Belgium. And then I actually renegotiated, or not renegotiated, but negotiated my own contract the second time I went to Malaysia. Right. So I negotiated that contract to go back to play like the last 7 games. And then I renegotiated a 2-year deal to go back for another season. Mm-hmm. Right. So by that point, I mean, like when you've been around the world and you played in like these different leagues, you've seen enough contracts.
Yeah.
So you can honestly do it yourself.
Yeah.
Like, all right, this is what I need. This is blah, blah, blah. Like, okay, send my agent fee. Like, even though he had nothing to do with this, break him off some bread. I take care of everybody. But, like that, that's what kind of got me that renegotiating those contracts. That's what tipped the business side for me. Cause it's like, okay, I'm starting to understand, like, okay, this is how taxes work. This is how blah, 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 all that stuff. So, it was a learning experience, but definitely it got me started down the right path financially.
Yeah. And I think the way you started versus the way I started is different, obviously, because of number one, the level and the accolades that you got compared to where I was at a Division II, like I said, a small Division II school. So, I mean, if I was Big West, conference tourney player of the year or whatever, then it would be easier for me. But that's just the difference, you know. Are you a Division III player listening to this? Okay, well, you can go play overseas, like, but you got to be an All-American, and it's going to still be rougher than someone that achieved a lot, you know.
Right. But at the same time, I mean, like, again, and this is like a perfect situation for people listening. It's like whether you're going to a Big West school or you're going to like a smaller school, like, oh, like, notice the same thing. Like, there's a common theme there. Like, he didn't stop working regardless. Like, he was hitting people up. Like, I got to go wherever the hell I got to go to get a job because this is what I want to do. So, you know, like, not to stop knowing just because people tell you like, oh, you're at such and such level, like, you're not going to pan out. Like, no, like, he played longer than I did. You know what I mean? So it's like, you got to be able to, like, you have to be able to take that pride and just say, hey, I'm not taking no for an answer. I'm just going to work and I'm going to reach out to whoever I need to reach out to until one of these doors open.
Cool. Yeah. That continual development, continual growth. That's true. So now talking about, you know, once you were out there, what was your guys' kind of day-to-day life? Because I think that's something that a lot of people don't really know anything about. Unless you have like a friend or someone that goes there. I think a lot of people think, especially basketball players, you know, high school players, or maybe even college guys are like, oh, I want to go overseas. And they think it's this like glamour life, you know, like, oh, I'm a pro, right? Like, I'm a pro overseas. Like, I'm, you know, yeah, it's not the NBA, but it's the next best thing. Like, so what is it really like day to day? So see, you could start. What was day to day life for you out there?
Well, first of all, I just want to touch on that, like the whole pro thing. Like, people that do this for the front of like saying you're a professional basketball player, just stop. I'm gonna tell you, like, I'm looking at this podcast like our version of like All the Smokes. Like, I'm gonna just tell you how I really
Yeah, no, we're honest here.
Like, you gotta stop. Like, and then if you play 2 weeks overseas, don't put that you're a pro basketball player in your bio, or if you worked out little Timmy from down the street, you're not a basketball trainer. Your income, if there's not a significant portion of your income that comes from, you know, if it's not a significant side hustle, like, don't try to lie to these people. But yeah. So again, sorry, I had to say that. But the day-to-day thing, it actually varies by country, because in Malaysia, real chill. We practice once a day, cooling. You know what I mean? Like, we might lift weights in the morning a couple of days a week. I personally try to lift like 4 to 5 times a week because one of our old strength coaches, like, I just wanted, like, we had that kind of like Tim Grover Mike relationship where it's like, hey, we just had a game last night, but let's get to work, that type of thing. But then in Germany, again, second division, real chill, one practice in the afternoon, you like 4 to 6:30, you chilling, I was in Cologne, so it's like, all right. But Belgium, boy, Belgium, practicing twice a day during the season. So I get there in August, I kid you not, we had 4 practices a day for preseason. So like, we wake up in the morning, or I would say 4 sessions. So we wake up in the morning, and then we'd have weights, right? And then after weights, you go to shoot. And then you go home, you get like an hour and a nap, and then 3 o'clock, you had to be on the track for a track workout from 3 to 4. And then from 4:15 to 6:30 or 7, you got practice. And that's for that was for what? Like a month and a half. So like, they were like legit. And then our coach was actually like, he's viewed as like the best Belgian center of all time. So he was like, everybody was like, okay, like, we get it. You know, you got the resume. So I'm thinking like, okay, once season hit, we chilling. Nah, we practicing twice a day, every day from 10 to 12:30, and then from 6 to 8:30 every single day. And then, so the way the league was set up was we played on Saturdays. So we would practice twice on Monday, twice on Tuesday, twice on Thursday, or twice on Wednesday, twice on Thursday. And then on Friday night before the games, we would scrimmage in a full like contact game. The first team to 75 wins. And then once you get to 75, you have to go the next 15 points. So then the first one to 90, only on out of bounds plays.
Wow.
And then like, that was the night before a game. And like, we didn't, like, our games were like at 7 o'clock, like the next day. And they were like, oh, that's enough time. I'm like, bruh, just ran an ultra marathon all week out here running. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we out here training for a Spartan race.
Yeah.
And you expect us to come out here and, you know, go out here and perform. And like, we were getting like whooped because when we got to the game, like dudes is just tired. Like, and they looking at us like the owners on the sideline, like, oh, what are y'all doing? This money time, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, until y'all get me a damn anti-gravity machine to run on, like it's not I ain't got it. So but yeah, like that's just that it just varies on where you are. Getting back to your question, I had to tell y'all, like, I wanted to give you guys and like I said, you probably know, but like the people who are listening, like the full scope of like you can be chilling one practice a day, or you could be grinding twice a day. And the crazy thing is, I actually made the least amount of money grinding the most. Pause. So you know what I mean? Right.
Yeah. That's crazy. I had similar situations, and actually when I played second league in Germany, that was my hardest year. And that was like throughout the whole season, it was not every day 3 days, but at least a couple days a week we'd have weights, practice, and shooting, or weights, conditioning practice, or something like that. And yeah, I can relate to exactly going to a game and you're just tired, your legs are like sore, and you're like about to get on the court. I hated that. Right.
And you knew the team that you were playing had the day off yesterday, or they had like just getting up shots. They would come in here looking like Jordan in the damn dunk contest.
Yeah, I remember warm-ups just being like, I'm not like just trying to go easy in warm-ups, like save it. They're all dunking on the other side. I'm like, save it.
But like one thing I know you can definitely be in Germany, you can attest to this. Those European seasons, on your body, they are not one season.
Right.
Like it tacks up to about two and a half, because you going hard every day. Because if you don't go hard, you're going home.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's like, I say I played 5 years, but playing in Germany put at least 15 years on the resume. So
yeah,
did that. So
at the lower levels though, the daily life was, like you said, in Malaysia, I think it was like one practice a day, and some days we'd even have like a day off during the week.
Right, because dudes got to work.
Yeah, dudes are working, and practice at 8 o'clock at night. And but we would still try to get in the gym, earlier in the day and stuff. But just the Americans. But yeah, I mean, like I think just one thing we haven't talked about as far as day-to-day life is like for a lot of people it's very boring, and you feel a little isolated. Like I was with my wife, so it was easier that way. But like a lot of people feel isolated because you're just chilling in your apartment all day until practice, and then you go to practice, and then you might like hang out with some people at night, stay up a little bit, play some video games against people at home. But yeah, you got to be ready for that. Like I know people here that were my teammates in college, and they're like, I want to go overseas. This is like back in the day, and I'm like, okay, yeah, but now I think I was like, man, you won't even eat like something from Subway, like it's too exotic. I'm like, you're not gonna survive going to play in Malaysia or something like that. So, but anyways, yeah, that's just day-to-day life for me was like that.
You really got to love yourself, man. Like you really have to love being alone. You got to enjoy it, because like if in some countries like Europe, or actually in most countries, your apartment's not going to be nice. Like it's going to be a studio.
Yeah.
I remember when I was in Belgium, like they gave me 2 futons and put them together. Like it was like, oh, this is your California king. I'm like, bruh, no, like you can't put 2 pieces of toast together and call it a damn Big Mac. Like it don't work like that. It ain't for me, dog. Like I need like get me a damn bed. Like like if you want these 15 to 20 points a night, like you can't have me sleeping on this Wonder Bread, bro. Like
yeah.
Man, that's good. That's good. Like I think that's good information for everybody to hear. Just like both of your experiences. And I'm glad you talked about it at the different countries. How it was, because it's not a one size fits all. It's not like the NBA where I feel like there's kind of a level that everyone's taken care of at. Maybe some teams are a little different than others, but it's pretty similar. But overseas, like you could go one country and be taken care of like a king. You go to another country and it could be really, really hard on you.
Right.
So speaking about that, now let's talk about your guys' worst experience and then your best experience overseas. So we'll start with the worst experience. I don't know who wants to start this one off.
You got one?
I said, you go ahead.
Okay. Probably worst experience. I'm not going to name any names, and it's not anybody's fault, but it was just more of the circumstance. But for one team I played for, we had to take 8 hours, sometimes more, bus rides very often. And so we would get on the bus at sometimes, I want to say like 6 a.m. and drive to our 7 p.m. game and play and then drive back. So
yeah, that was. I already know what that was.
yeah, so that was like interesting to me. Like I just like in college, it just makes you realize you're spoiled in college. Oh my gosh, you're spoiled in college. All levels of college, even junior college. Like you're staying in nice hotels, like for the most part. Like after the game, sometimes even staying the night, like stuff like that. Like that was probably the hardest thing for me because like that messed with my sleep a lot. Like playing a game, getting on the bus at 10 p.m., getting back at whatever. So yeah, that was probably the toughest thing for me. What about you?
I had two of my worst experiences, or two of the worst experiences, on the same team in the same year. Again, I'm gonna pull the all card. I'm not gonna say who it was. There was one team in my very short career that was not in Asia, but they so I like sprained my ankle in practice. And then like I had actually ended up tearing like the syndesmotic ligament in my ankle. So like they were like, "Oh, you're gonna be out for, it's a minimum 8 weeks." So I'm like, "All right, like I don't know what y'all want me to do. Like I'm gonna just be chilling. Like I'm posted at the crib." So then they come to me, like we start losing games. Like I think we go like 0 or like 1-4, 1-5. They come to me. And like this is fresh off of me coming from Malaysia. Like, oh, I guess I just told y'all where I was, but this is fresh off of me coming from Malaysia. And I'm like in Malaysia that year, I think I averaged like 20 and 10. So they looking at me like, oh, like, whatever. So they come to me like, hey, like we need you to play. And I'm like, I'm literally pointing at my foot like, y'all put me in this, like I obviously can't play. I can barely even walk. And they're like, well, you're either gonna have to play or we're gonna cut you. And I was like, okay. So y'all gonna have to cut me because I'm not playing, right? So I hold out during the season, and then I actually come home for Christmas for I think like 5 days. Like you know how it is. When you get a break over there, if it's anything above 6 days, you looking at flights like, hey,
yeah,
talk to me, Skyscanner, talk to me. I get on the damn Spirit Airline flight if it's cheap. So they told me like, all right, well, if you go home, like you might as well just stay there. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna call y'all bluff. Flew home, got myself together, flew back. They're at the airport. They're like, all right, well, you ready to play now? And I'm like, what you mean? Like y'all still want me to play? Like what's the deal? And they're like, yeah, like we'll take you, blah, blah, blah. So then I come back. We win a couple games in a row and like everything like that. But it was the same thing where they're like, hey, they actually told me like, if you don't get this shot so that you can play, like it was one of those, it was not the cortisone. It might have been like a PPP shot or something like that, or the PRP shot. What is it, the plasma one? They were like, if you don't take this, like you obviously, like we're gonna send you home. I'm like, bro, that ain't right. So like I said, came home, got myself together, blah, blah, blah. So then we go on the road down to the south part of the country, and we get blown out by a team. Literally, like they beat us by 30. Our manager, our team president comes into our locker room and he says, none of y'all are getting paid for it. I'm going to pay you guys tonight. Like, y'all didn't even show up for the game. Like, all y'all are fined for missing a game. Bruh. Yeah.
Wow.
That is insane. But
He like literally, he fined us all as if we didn't even show up. So like, for a couple guys, like, for the local guys, it's a couple $100. But for us, like, bruh, like that's a considerable.
yeah.
So those two, like I said, those two were the worst ones that I had. Yeah.
Wow.
I can relate to that twisted ankle story for sure.
You know how they be over there, man. Like you got to be mentally strong for that.
Yep.
So what about on the flip side then? What about your guys' best experiences?
There's a lot more best experiences for me than worst experiences for sure. But I would say like sometimes when we'd have breaks and we would go travel, like that was always fun. Like go see something, and then yeah, that's what I'm gonna go. I'd like to hear CE's version. I don't have a great version on this, but
yeah, I mean the traveling is obviously fun. My best experience was probably in Malaysia. After my second year, so the last 7 games that I had going back, I think I ended up averaging like 28 a game for like those last 7 games. So like that summer they were like, hey, you can have whatever the hell you want, just come back. So it's like they were letting me do, like, I was doing camps in my own name, like all of that stuff, which actually ended up like,
That's cool.
Business side of it, like it works out great because now it's like you got your name on stuff, you got stuff to post on your social media. It's all about like, building that image and building that brand. So, then I was able to travel a little bit, and like I train guys, and that's when I started coaching. It's like train guys, and like we had some guys from like the boondocks of the country. Like they came in, they were like MVP finalists and stuff like that. Like, cause we worked together, like they were with me every morning before we had practice, like we worked out. So, kind of seeing like that, and then coming back to still be able to play myself, and like those guys actually became my teammates. So, less from like a selfish standpoint, but to be able to like take 2 guys from, again, the boondocks of Malaysia, bring them in, work with them every morning, 5 days a week, practice with them every night, 5 days a week, for them to be MVP candidates in the local league, and then for them to come and contribute at the international level. Like that was pretty cool for me, honestly.
That is cool. I guess I can think of one other situation that I was in that was pretty cool, and that was in Luxembourg. Like that's a really cool place for people to like go end their careers, in my opinion, because I mean, your furthest away game is 45 minutes away. You don't take any buses. You hop in your own car that they give you, obviously, and you just go to the game, you play the game. Like, and honestly, like I was hanging out with all the other Americans from all the other teams. So we had like a cool little brotherhood where like we would play, even sometimes play against each other, then just hang out after the game. And so that was a good experience that I would for sure talk about. But yeah.
When you guys look at like, a lot of times I think we compare like college basketball and we talk about like the level of play, right, to pro ball and all that stuff. But I don't know how many times people actually think about like the style of play and how that might be different, because I've seen guys, that maybe were D1 guys over here that were really good in college, and they go overseas and they just do not do well, and they, burn out early, end up playing maybe a couple of years, and you look at him and you're like, God, this was like a major college player. How is he not able to play over there? And I know, Og, you've told me in the past, like you had teammates that were guys from like Oregon, you know what I mean, or whatever, other Pac-12 schools, and they got cut, and what do you think that's like? How was the style of play over there compared to here? And like, what are your guys' thoughts on that just in general? C, we could start with you.
Well, actually, Og already said it. It's the fact that college players over here, they're treated like, they're spoiled. You know what I mean? You think about if you're able to have, if you're able to stay in the nicest hotels, if you're taking jets to games, if you're on nice coach buses and all of this stuff, and then you go over to Istanbul, Turkey, because you were at a high major school, and of course you might be getting paid, but the living situations ain't like that. Or you go to like a Germany or a Belgium or like any of those other European countries, a lot of guys just can't handle that drop off, and they can't handle not being the man, because it's like when you're in Germany or Belgium, in those leagues, we had 6 Americans on my Belgian team, and all of us were the man in college or at our previous team. You know what I mean? So it's like, if you're not the man and, you're coming from an Oregon, you're coming from a USC, whatever, and you didn't go to the league, it's like you're going overseas thinking like, it's easy, like blah, 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 it's whatever. But, that mindset is kind of the tough thing, is the drop-off that I saw. But the style of play, for me, like Asia is literally run and gun. It's entertainment. Like they want to pay you lots of money, and they want to see you hitting threes, dunking on people, crossovers, all the and one street ball stuff. And Europe is more physical. Like, that's why EuroLeague games are not high scoring. Guys, the leading scorers in the EuroLeague are averaging 18, 19 points a game. Like if you're cracking over 20 in the EuroLeague, you are a certified bucket. Like you are making, what I mean? Like you're a Brad Wanamaker, you're a Alexei Shved. Like you're one of those people, or like, or like my guy from Real Madrid that was at the Bulls, the 6'10" shooter. What's his name? The one that left New Orleans and then went over there to Real Madrid and is making 4 years, $78 million.
I'm not sure who it is.
First, when you said Bulls big efforts, I was thinking Markkanen, but that's not, talking about.
Not that guy. Mirotic.
Oh, Mirotic. Okay.
Yeah, like he went back to the crib and was like, I'm gonna go over here. But I mean, just the physicality. I mean, because those dudes, like you're playing against, when you go to Belgium or you go to Germany, like, yeah, you're gonna have some young guys, but Og knows, like, you got some 35, 36, 7-year-olds that's been playing for 20.
Yeah.
That's got to provide for their family. So they in there, like, them screens hurt, bro. Like, you ever run into a Bosnian? Like, no, you ain't trying to do it again. Like, when you see that screen coming, be like, all right, coach said go over, but he's 7'2", 860. So I'm gonna just go.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I mean, style of play for me was it was European for sure, like with the pick and rolls and that kind of stuff. And yeah, the physical play. I remember the hip checking is something that I was like always like in college and stuff. You drive baseline on someone and they kind of hip check you out of bounds. Like they weren't calling that, and I was like getting hip checked out of bounds, like and just they're just calling it out of bounds. But yeah, I mean, as far as the other rules too, they have like other rules. Like travel is a little bit different in Europe. Like you can't. Yeah, they like so they're like sticklers on like the rip through, right? You like do like a rip through and take a big long step. Like we're all taught as youth players here, like big huge first step. Like they would call travel on that like every time. So you had to cross step. And then, but then they would do like these Euro steps that were like look a little bit more like a travel, and those never got called. Like especially like this one little hop one where like you kind of it's almost like a pro hop, but then they just keep the steps. Yeah, they don't like jump stop into the pro hop. They just like keep going with it and like take those steps. But yeah, that's what I got for style of play. Man, that was bizarre.
What about the like people talk about like isolation ball versus team ball? Is it a lot more team oriented over there? Did you feel like, or did you feel like it was more isolated?
Europe is definitely more team oriented because, like I said, like I was in Germany. I think I averaged 8 points a game. I think we like our Americans were like 13, 11, 10, 8, 6. Like you're not really getting like you have to be efficient because you're not gonna get the touches.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like when I was in Asia, like I was really going out there, like I didn't care. I was putting up 25 shots a night regardless. So it's like either I'm gonna get 40 or 50, or I'm gonna get 20 on 22 shots. Like one of those is gonna happen. So
yeah, and that's a crazy thing too about playing overseas. You got to feel it out because, like you said, if you would have went and tried to play team ball in Malaysia, then they would have been like, get out of here. And I was in those situations even in like the lower levels of Germany. I remember my very first game in the low level, I was nervous, and like this old guy, 40 years old, comes up to me and he's like, one piece of advice. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, be very aggressive. I'm like, all right. I shot like but yeah, there's different expectations for the Americans depending on where you're at.
Yeah. And what about your guys' experiences with like the coaching out there? I know you touched on it a little bit already, but how was the coaching? I guess how would you compare the coaching maybe to college basketball over here, or whatever, high school, college, whatever you want to compare it to, like not only the level but the style of coaching?
For me, like this is going to be kind of a lame answer, but it was across the board different. I mean, in the lower levels, the coaches, like they were good, they were getting better, but I mean, they had a lot to learn still. And like, there was no scouting reports or not too much film at those levels. But once I got into the Pro A, the second league in Germany, I would say that was ran just like a good college program.
Yeah. Europe was definitely was more defensive based. Because again, like I said, just the pace of the game is different. Asia, one of my coaches 1 year was like offensive minded. Like we were trying to outscore teams, like not even worried about defense. And then the next time I went back, one of my coaches, he was one of the assistants for Golden State. So again, trying to outscore people. Then my last year in Malaysia, we had a guy who had just come from the Australian NBL, and obviously Australia is about defense. So, like, we spent the first 15, 20 minutes of practice every day, defensive slides. You know what I mean? So it's like if, Og or myself, are out here doing defensive slides at 31, 32 years old, like, don't think you're too cool to be out here doing defensive slides at 16, 17. Like, if you want to get paid, this is the type of stuff you got to do. And if you're 17, 18, complaining about it now, you're not going to be getting that check in 12, 13 years when you think it's playing to you 37, 38.
That's a good point. Any other last thoughts on that part before we move on to the next thing? No? All right. So now that we kind of covered some of the overseas experience, for those of you listening or watching, hopefully that gives you a decent picture of what it's like. And again, that's still between all your guys' experience, and you have a lot of experience, that's only one part of the world. You know, I'm sure if you talk to someone that played in China or someone that played in the Middle East, right? Or you know, maybe South America. Yeah. And I'm, you know,
boy,
say it again.
I heard some stuff about South America.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, and I had a guy that played at Menlo right after I graduated. He came in the year after, and I'm pretty close with him. And he played a few years down in South America. And, you know, I mean, we both have friends, obviously, that played in Mexico and stuff. It's very different depending on where you go. So, but now that we've kind of covered all that, so I know you've talked about it a little bit. See, you mentioned it earlier, but like, what are you up to now? Like, what are you kind of doing with your life now that I know you're not necessarily retired, but on a hiatus from playing? What's your you know, goal and passion right now?
Right now, I mean, well, pre-COVID, it was I was the sports director down here in Westlake at the Yarrow Family YMCA, and then I obviously do the coaching on the side, and then I was working with the company as a creative consultant and a recruiting specialist and like player experience coordinator for 3Ball USA. So like we're one of the, if not, well, besides the big three, we're like one of the premier like three basketball tournament or companies, organizations in the country. So doing stuff with that. And then now that kind of this is taking over, we had a big downsizing at work. So, you know, fortunate enough to still keep my job and still be able to create, you know, for the community down here. So I've actually been able to create, design, launch like a virtual PE program K through 12 down here, and then like trivia community. So, you know, just trying to, again, like I'm one of 3 directors left out of however many that we had. So, yeah, it's kind of just like, you know, assuming the thing about working at the Y is like, you just got to be able to do everything. You know, it's like, you got to be the Draymond Green of business.
Yeah. And I know you said before, you know, before COVID, you were coaching. I know you coached a couple AAU teams down there. I remember, you know, you used to go down to the Mamba Academy and do some stuff out there. What's some stuff that you've learned from coaching AAU out here, working with those athletes?
I feel like kids are just getting softer, man. So much softer. Like it's hard to find a dog nowadays. You know what I mean? Like somebody who's just going to work. Because it's like little Johnny, you know, you yell at little Johnny in practice, he gonna go home and tell his mom, then he gonna transfer AAU teams, and then, you know, you got kids that are, you know, they're going to a D12 college in, you know, Minnesota, and they want to say they 110% committed, and like, you know, it's just like this whole social media age is just, it's got these kids' minds just so messed up, man. Because again, they're doing it for the wrong reasons. They're doing it for the clout. They're doing it for the girls. They're not doing it for the grind. They're not doing it for the respect. You know, they may claim they love the game, but you know, if you've never been kicked out the gym in the middle of the night, you don't love the game. Like, like you got to have somebody come kick you out. You know, that you want to be in there so bad. Like, you know, I mean, me personally, like, I was stealing curbs in Reeves Keys to like get in the gym. Like they had to come kick me out, and that's like shit like that. And I mean, excuse me, sorry. But yeah, it's just like, you know, you have to be able to, again, like it goes back to just being a lifer. And, you know, I just think that it's either you are or you aren't. And a lot of these kids nowadays, they just aren't, because they're in it for the wrong reasons.
I think that it's interesting. Like, you know, I think there's always this thing that like, oh, the older generation says the new generation's soft, right? Like there's always that kind of like, I don't know if you want to call it a stigma, but like repeating thing, right? Where our parents said that about us. But it's interesting how like I've talked to a lot of people in, you know, late 20s, early 30s, where we're not really that far removed. You know, it's not like we're like 55, 60 and we're like, oh, back in my day it was like this. It's like people like, you know, Og and I are in our early 30s, you're in your 20s. Like we're not that far removed from when we were players, and we're already seeing that shift. You know, and this is like a consistent thing I've seen or talked to people about. And it was kind of the same thing at first. I was like, is it just me like being like the old guy? But no, like I think there is an actual shift, and a lot of people are noticing that.
Right.
And yeah, I don't really know how you fix that. I think it's kind of unfortunately headed in a certain direction, but I think you can only do so much, right? Maybe on an individual level, we got to try and relate and teach these kids, you know, what really matters as opposed to what they're trying to do just to impress their friends or impress the girl, you know, or something like that. So,
I mean, perfect example is look at Dennis Rodman. Like this man had 0 points and 21 rebounds. You know what I mean? But he's not time NBA, like he's a champ. He's what, 6-time NBA champ? How
Yeah.
many?
I think he got 5, right? 2 with the Pistons and 3 with the Bulls.
Right, so he got 5. He's a 5-time NBA champ, literally for just being an energy guy and a rebounder. Like kids especially nowadays, they underestimate the fact that, shooting is a skill, dribbling is a skill, defense is a skill. So is having a motor, because a lot of people are just you know what I mean? It's just like, oh, you come out here, I'm the best person on the Central Coast. Let me go out here and, go out here and shoot these jump shots. I'm cooling. But then when you come down here and play the Compton Magic, they own you. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They pick you up 94 feet, like, what's good,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, like I said, just the mentality. But, like, the one thing I will say about the Central Coast, I do love the guys from, whether it be Mission or I'm not sure if they're any from Slow High, that do come down here and play in the summertime. You know what I mean? They don't try to stay up in the bubble. Like, they want to get out and they want to get better, because they realize that, the best players aren't going to be in SLO County. Like, they're going to be in LA County. They're going to be in San Diego County. They're going to be up in the Bay if you're looking at California. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You might get 1 or 2, every couple years. But if you want that consistent, CIF presence where guys are going to UCLA's, guys are going to USC, Stanford's, you know what I mean? Like, you have to go find it.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely a good point. You got anything else on that?
No, just I do agree with that, where we're seeing like the kids, and I don't know if it's because like nowadays the coaching is a little bit softer across the board, because we talked about this before in previous podcasts, but I felt like growing up you just had to be on your P's and Q's in practice a little bit better. Like, you couldn't miss practice. Like, nowadays that stuff's more lenient, right? Kids are missing practices for this and that. But yeah, I don't know. So it's hopefully something that will change, and maybe it's just a wave, maybe the wave will wash through, and then we'll be having kids, playing outdoors every day again.
Yeah, that would be nice. All right, last thing we're going to ask you, C, and then we'll leave it with this one is, because we know you play in the infamous Drew League, okay? We're going to add, because I know everybody out there loves the Drew. The Drew's all over Instagram, all over Twitter. Everybody loves the Drew. So what is your experience playing in the Drew League? Like, what's your thoughts on that? How do you like it? Obviously you've played, 3 or 4 years now in it?
This would have been my 4th year, yeah.
Yeah, it would have been the 4th year. So I think I saw that unfortunately, obviously, are not having it this summer because of everything that's going on. But what's been your experience? How do you like that?
Well, yeah, man. First of all, I just want to say sorry to all my people. We all gonna miss out on some serious summer hoops this year, man.
Oh yeah.
My Saturdays are now gonna be filled with cornhole and ESPN, and yeah, like the Drew League's been dope, man. It's a great opportunity honestly, it's a glorified open gym, but it's just so much fun, because, you got the main thing about it is, like, obviously the players are there, you got James Harden, and I've had a chance to guard like these guys who are, perennial NBA All-Stars, which is awesome. And you get to see why they're so good at what they do. You know what I mean? It's like, but when I watched James Harden on TV before I got him in person, it's like, okay, I could try to do that. But like, no, like, James Harden is like my size plus another like 10, 15 pounds. His deceleration, it's like you notice stuff like that about why he's so good. And it's like DeMar DeRozan has Kobe footwork. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, I can do this, but it's like, okay, then he has a counter to this. And so being up close and actually guarding these people, it's always been super fun, because you get to learn and you kind of get to take some things to your game. But honestly, the most fun part about the Drew is the environment, man, because you got George on the mic, the voice of the Drew. He's always talking trash, talking this, talking that. You got the crowd out there, like, the stands would be packed for, if word is coming that an NBA player is coming, like, oh yeah, we there. They had a line outside the building. They got the Drew Aid. It's just an entire experience. And, very few things in my life that I've seen, from the basketball standpoint, and, fortunately, and I guess unfortunately as of tomorrow, things that bring the basketball community together, and the Drew League is, again, worldwide. Like, it's always on Bleacher Report, always like getting coverage. Drake raps about it, you know what I mean? So it's getting that coverage. And then it's like the other thing is the Bulls thing, the Bulls documentary that's going to end tomorrow. Every now and then there comes something that unites us for, whatever reason. So the Drew League being that thing every year is really special, and then again, like I said, it would have been my 4th year playing. So we'll see. Like if I go back to playing overseas or something one day, maybe I'll hop back in, or maybe I'll play one more year with like my teammates, and then we all just call it a day. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. You know, the environment is there, talking trash with the people in the stands. Like it's real hard-nosed basketball, like the way we were brought up to, like, you know, see it. It's like, no, like, you know, people gonna tell you that you suck. Like, and then you don't even know them. Like, bro, I don't even know you, but like, all right, let me go ahead and work out and then look at you when I score. And now we got this back and forth on. And then this dude in front of me looking at you like, why am I working him out because you talking?
Yeah.
Just stuff like that. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know, and your guys' teams, I mean, Redemption, right? If I remember that right. You guys have been good. I know they won it one year, and I remember a couple of the other years you finished first in the league, you know, going into the playoffs. So it's not like you're just some random team.
We've always been final. We won it the one year. Well, they won it the one year. That was when I was in Malaysia. But we, like, every time I've played, we've always been Final Four at least. So
yeah. Well, that's again, it's like, you know, that type of experience. Like you said, it just brings everyone together, and there's just that, you know, everyone around the world knows the Drew League. You know, I was out in New York last summer, and I actually went out to Rucker, and I was watching some basketball out there, and, you know, there's some people sitting around me, and we started talking. They're like, oh, you know, where are you from? California. And they're like, oh yeah, you know, the Drew League's out there, right? Like, you know, like first thing they thought of, oh, the Drew, because I was telling them how cool Rucker was, you know, and so it's cool to see that type of a thing bring everyone together, like you said. So, all right, anything last words from you guys before we get out of here?
No, man, thank y'all for having me. I appreciate it. Like, this is dope, you know, being able to just talk hoops. And, you know, this is something that I look forward to you guys continuing. I'm glad you guys got a kick back off. And hopefully we can all get back on the court soon, man. I might need to make an appearance at Mini Hoop Madness, or we might back for a day.
Mini Hoop Madness. That's a story for another day. We'll definitely have to tell that one at some point. But all right. Well, again, thank you for coming on. We really appreciate it. Thanks everyone else for watching. That's all we got for this week. If you like today's episode and you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe. If you're listening on iTunes, make sure to subscribe there as well. We come out with a new episode once a week. We hope to see you in the next one. Peace.
All right, fellas.